जय श्री श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की। भक्तराज श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की। पतित पावन save the whole world, the most merciful Srila Prabhupada की।
श्री श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह प्रहलाद महाराज की। श्री नरसिंह जय नरसिंह जय जय नरसिंह। प्रहलादेश जय पद्मा मुख पद्म भृंगा। श्री नरसिंह जय नरसिंह जय जय नरसिंह। प्रहलादेश जय पद्मा मुख पद्म भृंगा। प्रहलादेश जय पद्मा मुख पद्म भृंगा। तव कर कमलवरे नखा अद्भुत श्रृंगा। दलित हिरण्यकश्यपु तनु भृंगा। केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा। जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे। तव कर कमलवरे तव कर कमलवरे नखा अद्भुत श्रृंगा। दलित हिरण्यकश्यपु तनु भृंगा। केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा। जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे। तव कर कमलवरे नखा अद्भुत श्रृंगा। दलित हिरण्यकश्यपु केशवधृता तव कर कमल वरे नखा अद्भुत श्रृंगा दलिता हिरण्यकश्यपु तनुभृंगा केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमल वरे अद्भुत श्रृंगा ललिता हिरण्यकश्यपु केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरहरि 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 जय नरहरि जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह लक्ष्मी नरसिंह लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Shri Guru Charana Padma केवल भक्ति सदमा. बंदो मोई सावधान माते. बंदो मोई सावधान माते. याहर प्रसादे भाई हे भव तोरे आया. याहर प्रसादे भाई हे भव तोरे आया. कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो यहाँ होइते. कृष्ण प्राप्ति होए यहाँ होइते. गुरु मुख पद्मा वाक्या चित्ते करिया क्या. गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्या चितते करे आए क्या हरना करी हमने आशा हरना करी हमने आशा श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति ये प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशयाते प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशयाते वेदे गाय हर चरितो वेदे गाय हर चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु लोके ना लोकेर जीवाना लोके ना लोकेर जीवाना हा हा प्रभु कर दया देहो मोरे पद छाया हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया हे बेया घोषक त्रिभुवना हे बेयास घुसु त्रिभुवना जय प्रभुपदा 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 शिल प्रभुपदा प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडेंटल गुरु पूजा की नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Gauranitai, 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 Jai Gauranitai. Jai Gauranitai, 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 Shishi Gauranitai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More Toma bina के दयालु जगत संसारे पतिता पावन हेतु तव अवतार मोसमापतिता प्रभु न पाइबे आरा आहा प्रभु नित्यानंदा प्रेमानंद सुखी कृपावलोकना करो आमी बड़ो दुखी दया करो सीतापति अद्वैत गोसाई तव कृपा भले पाई चैतन्य निताय आहा स्वरूप सनातना रूप रघुनाथ भटयुगा शिजीवो प्रभु लोकनाथ दया करो श्रियाचार्या प्रभु श्रीनिवास रामचंद्र संग मांगे नरोत्तम दास श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे जय गौरानिताई 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 जय गौरानिताई हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jayo Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Haribol Gaur Haribol Nitai Gaur Haribol Gaur Haribol Nitai Nitai Gora Haribol, 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 Gora Haribol.
स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की नित्य लीला पुरुष ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की ISKCON फाउंडर आचार्य ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की BBT फाउंडर आचार्य ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की सेवियर ऑफ होल वर्ल्ड शील प्रभुपाद की नित्य लीला पुरुष श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की नित्य लीला पुरुष श्री श्री गौर किशोर दास बाबू जी महाराज की जय रूप सनातन रघुनाथ दास रघुनाथ भट्ट गोपाल भट्ट जीव गोस्वामी खट गोस्वामी प्रभु की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की अनंत कोटि वर्ष वृंद की वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की नवदीप मायापुर धाम की गंगा मैया जमुना मैया की भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की नामाचार्य शेरदास ठाकुर की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की बोल परमानंदे all going to assemble devotees, all going to assemble devotees, all going to श्री गुरु and श्री गौरांगा। आप हमारे साथ गुरु वंदना बोलिए। हमारे गुरुदेव के चरण कमल ही एकमात्र साधन है जिनके द्वारा हम शुद्ध भक्ति प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। मैं उनके चरण कमलों में अत्यंत भक्ति एवं श्रद्धा पूर्वक नतमस्तक होता हूँ। उनकी कृपा से जीव भौतिक क्लेशों के महासागर को पार कर सकता है तथा कृष्ण की कृपा प्राप्त कर सकता है। मेरी एकमात्र इच्छा है उनके मुख कमल से निकले हुए शब्दों द्वारा अपनी चेतना को शुद्ध करूं। उनके चरण कमलों में अनुराग ऐसी सिद्धि है समस्त मनोरथों को पूर्ण करती है। वे मेरी बंद आँखों को खोलते हैं, मेरे हृदय में दिव्य ज्ञान भरते हैं। जन्म जन्मांतरों में वे मेरे प्रभु हैं, प्रेमा भक्ति प्रदान करते हैं, अविद्या का नाश करते हैं, वैदिक शास्त्र उनके चरित्र का गान करते हैं। हे गुरुदेव, हे प्रभुपाद, करुणा सिंधु, पतितात्माओं के मित्र, आप सबके गुरु सभी लोगों के जीवन है। हे गुरुदेव, हे प्रभुपाद, मुझ पर दया कीजिए, मुझे अपने श्री चरणों की छाया प्रदान कीजिए। आपका यश तीनों लोकों में फैला हुआ है। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद के बोल परमानंदे। आप सब लोगों से निवेदन है कि आप कृपा करके ऑडिटोरियम के लिए प्रस्थान करें। आज भागवतम क्लास नरसिम्हा प्रभु के द्वारा जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया से आए हैं आप लोगों के ऊपर विशेष कृपा करने के लिए वो ऑडिटोरियम में होगी। हरि बोल।
राम राम हरे हरे। ट्रांसलेशन हिंदी में होएगा पीछे लॉबी में ऑडिटोरियम के बाहर।
Hare Krishna. Very nice to be back here with you all. That's for you. The last time I was in this auditorium, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj was giving class. It was a very wonderful class. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivadhatari Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivadhatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivadhatari Gopi Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivadhatari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivadhatari Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivadhatari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jai Nitya Vishnu Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Pariva Jaka Charja Ashto Tarasata Shishi Mad Histamai Grace of High Charananda Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BBD Founder Charya Save the whole world Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitya Vishnu Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Pariva Jaka Charja Ashto Tarasata Shishi Mad Histamai Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Nama Charja Shri Thakur Ki Premsa Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Sri Sadhguru Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Radha Krishna Gokul Prat Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Braj Bhumi Shrindavan Dhamma Ki Navdvip Mayapur Dhamma Ki Purushtam Chetra Jaganapuri Dhamma Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulasi Maharani Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi all glories to somebodies, all glories to somebodies, all glories to somebodies, all glories, Lord, be to Sri Guru and Sri Garanga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sadhu, should I chant the verse or just read the purport? Huh? Shall I? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Prahad Uvacha. Okay, so Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Smaranam Padasevanam Smaranam Padasevanam Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam Sakyam Atmanam Nivedanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam Iti Pungsapita Vishnu Iti Pungsapita Vishnu Iti Pungsapita Vishnu Bhaktis Chen Nava Lakshana Bhaktis Chen Nava Lakshana Bhaktis Chen Nava Lakshana Iti Pungsapita Vishnu Bhaktis Chen Nava Lakshana Kriyeta Bhagavati Adha Kriyete Bhagavatyata Kriyeta Bhagavatyadha Tan Manye Aditam uttamam tanmanye ditam uttamam tanmanye ditam uttamam kriyeta bhagavat yadha tanmanye ditam uttamam Shri Prabhu vacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Parasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam Iti Pungsapita Vishnu Bhaktischain Navalakshana Kriyate Bhagavat Yadha Tanmanye Ditamuttamam Shri Prabhu Vacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Parasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam Iti Pungsapita Vishnu Bhaktischain Navalakshana Kriyate Bhagavat Yadha Tanmanye Ditamuttamam It's interesting that Prabhupada would often say that we should learn all these mantras. And when he himself would give class, you can listen to the recordings, he would sometimes have 15, 20 devotees chant the mantra, and just repeatedly chanting the mantra because he wanted devotees to learn all these different mantras. Shri Prabhu Vacha. Prahlad Maharaj said, Shravanam, hearing. Kirtanam, chanting. Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu, not anyone else. Smaranam, remembering. Padasevanam, serving the feet. Archanam, offering worship. With Sodasha Upachara, the 16 kinds of paraphernalia. Vandanam, offering prayers. Dasyam, becoming the servant. Sakyam, becoming the best friend. Atma Nivedanam, surrendering everything, whatever one has. Iti, thus. Pungsa Apita, offered by the devotee. Vishnu, unto Lord Vishnu, not to anyone else. Bhakti, devotional service. Chet, if. Navalakshana, possessing 9 different possessing 9 different processes. Excuse me. Kriyeta, one should perform. Bhagavati, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adha, directly or completely. Tat, that. Manye, I consider. Aditam, learning. Uttamam, topmost. So it's really apparent here that Prahlad Maharaj is making quite a specific point here. And you'll see that each time that Vishnu or Vishnu is mentioned, what does he say? Not to anyone else. And then also we see here that later in the verse, he's saying Bhagavati, unto the Supreme Personality of God. He's very specific about who he's addressing. And we see that with our acharyas also, they also took this same emphasis, that our service is for Krishna. And this is one of the unique contributions of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is that the service of the Lord is focused specifically on Krishna, his direct expansions, his associates, and the members of the Guru Parampara. You'll see that Srila Prabhupada did not introduce any other type of worship in ISKCON. And sometimes devotees would ask him about worshipping this personality, that personality. And Srila Prabhupada's response was generally, no, just worship the deities we have, or just focus on Krishna. Even one time, a well-known devotee asked Srila Prabhupada about worshipping Ganesh. He says, because it's mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion, we should worship Ganapati. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, you can worship Ganesh if you give me $50,000 each month and not 1 penny less. So he was very specific that our worship should be focused on Krishna. And we should never get distracted. And here you find in India, there's so many different types of worship going on. And probably many of you have experienced from your backgrounds also, your upbringing, they're worshipping this Devata, they're worshipping that Devata, they're worshipping this, deity, all different types of things here in India. And many times we find that the understanding is very confused. They generally will look at these personalities as being supreme. But as Lord Brahma, he says, is Ishvara Parama Krishna. What does this mean? Ishvara Parama. He is the supreme controller. There's no controller greater than Krishna. And Lord Brahma, again, he's very specific. Ishvara Parama Krishna. He doesn't say God, he doesn't use some secondary reference. He's very focused on his reference. He says Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha. He has an eternal, transcendental body which is full of knowledge, bliss. Anadi Adi Govinda. That he's the origin of all. Sarva Karana Karanam, and he's the cause of all. So Brahma, he's also very clearly spelt out for us who it is we worship, or who it is he's worshipping. And we come in his sampradaya. Therefore, we should follow the same teachings. And you'll see throughout the Brahma Samhita also, Lord Brahma does emphasize, he talks about the service of so many different personalities, like the sun god, Durga, many, many personalities. He also talks about different types of incarnations. But every single line, he finishes it, every single verse, or the main verse, he finishes it with the same line. Govindam Adipurusham Tam Aham Bhajami. So this should really give us the clear understanding of, as members of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. He's the founder of this Sampradaya. So we follow his line. We should not deviate from the line of the Sampradaya. Should never deviate. Should always follow the line of the Sampradaya. Don't worry about what they do in other Sampradayas. That's their worship. They'll have a particular destination. The destination of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we have a very, very clear destination, Goloka Vrindavan. To achieve Goloka Vrindavan, we must follow the teachings of the Sampradaya. If we follow the teachings of any other Sampradaya, we'll go to their destination. Vaikuntha is very interesting, an attractive place, but I don't want to go there. It's too formal, it's too much Aishwarya. I'd rather be, hopefully, one lifetime, I'll get to Goloka Vrindavan. I'll read Prabhupada's translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia. This is what is called Sodasa Upachara Puja. Offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So we see, again, this emphasis is given to Krishna. He is our... Actually, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, Radha Krishna are understood to be the Ishta Devatas, meaning they are the worshipable deities of the Sampradaya. Now, I'm going to take a liberty here and skip over, because I understand yesterday you covered Shravanam, and so there's Kirtanam, Padasevanam, what is it? Kirtanam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam and Padasevana. I'm going to skip over them, because as was introduced, I have a particular service, so I figured I can take the license of going straight to the topic of my service. Okay? So I hope you don't mind. Okay. So, just get a bit closer so I can see it. Archanam, this is number 5. So maybe tomorrow's speaker can cover 2, 3, and 4. And the discussion about Kirtanam is quite wonderful. And it's very interesting to note that Srila Prabhupada is following quite closely Jiva Goswami's commentary on this verse. It's quite similar. Archanam. After Padasevanam comes the process of Archanam, worship of the deity. If one is interested in the process of Archanam, one must positively take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and learn the process from him. And we see that generally what happens is at the point of Diksha, what's it called? Pancha Samskara. There's 5 things that the Guru gives. There's Tapa Punya, meaning he gives the practice, he gives marks on the body, he gives the deity, the method of worship. So we see that this is generally the case. However, in this ISKCON line, especially the deities we worship and the method of worship is coming from who? Who gives us the method of worship in ISKCON? Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, we follow the line of our founder Acharya. Yeah? And he's given a very, very specific, and we learn the process from him. And he engaged also in teaching his disciples the process of deity worship. A few notes here I want to refer to. Okay. There are many books for archana, especially Narad Pancharatra. In this age, the Pancharatra system is particularly recommended for archana. deity worship, there are two systems of archana, the Bhagavat system and the Pancharatric system. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no recommendation of Pancharatric worship, because in this Kali Yuga, even without deity worship, everything can be perfectly performed through hearing, chanting, remembering, and worship of the Lord's lotus feet. Worship the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is actually a fact that the Bhagavatam explains, that you can achieve perfection by any of the 9 processes of devotional service, even without diksha. If one has deep faith, if one has complete attachment to the holy name, you can go back to home to Godhead. This is explained in detail in the Madhya Lila. And there we see also that Srila Prabhupada is quoting this same passage, because this is explained by Jiva Goswami in the Bhakti Sandarbha, where he says the opinion of the Bhagavatam that deity worship is not actually necessary. But then he goes on to elaborate, and this is the point that Prabhupada is hinting at here, that because of the conditioned nature of the living entity, the hearts, Jiva Goswami says, but so far as we're experiencing those people who approach us for initiation or approach us for guidance, their hearts are contaminated by the modes of material nature. He says, therefore, deity worship is essential. And Jiva Goswami's commentary on this verse is basically coming from those verses in the Bhakti Sandarbha around 280 to 290. There's a whole lot of verses there where he's commenting on this verse here. So Rupa Goswami states, Sri Vishnu Shravane Parikshit Abhavad Vayashakti Kirtane Pralada Smarane Tarangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pritu Pujane Akurast Tvabina Vande Kapi Pati Dasheta Sake Arjuna Sarvasvatma Nivedane Bali Abut Krishna Pati Esham Param. Parikshit Maharaj attained salvation simply by hearing, and Shukadev Goswami attained salvation simply by chanting. Prahlad Maharaj attained salvation by remembering the Lord. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, attained perfection by worshipping the Lord's lotus feet. Interesting that everyone else has attained salvation, but Lakshmi Devi, she's already, she's fixed it. Oh, exciting. She's already fixed at the Lord's lotus feet, so she doesn't need salvation. Thank you. Prithu Maharaj attained salvation by worshipping the deity of the Lord. Akrura attained salvation by offering prayers, Hanuman by rendering service, Arjuna by establishing friendship with the Lord, and Bali Maharaj by offering everything unto the service of the Lord. All these great devotees served the Lord according to a particular process, but every one of them attained salvation and became eligible to return back home, back to Godhead. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, it is recommended that initiated devotees follow the principles of Narad Pacharatra by worshipping the deity in the temple. So again, Prabhupada's making the point that initiated devotees should follow this process, and it's very, very beneficial. Then Srila Prabhupada goes on. It's quite a lengthy section here, so I'll give a few comments as I'm going on. Especially for the householder devotees who are opulent in material possessions, the path of deity worship is strongly recommended. An opulent householder devotee who does not engage his hard-earned money in the service of the Lord is called a miser. One should not engage paid brahmanas to worship the deity. If one does not personally worship the deity but engages paid servants instead, he is considered lazy, and his worship of the deity is called artificial. An opulent householder can collect luxurious paraphernalia for deity worship, and consequently for householder devotees, the worship of the deity is compulsory. In our Krishna conscious movements, there are brahmacharis, grihastas, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, but the deity worship in the temple should be performed especially by the householders. The brahmacharis can go with the sannyasis to preach. The vanaprasthas should prepare themselves for the next status of renounced life, sannyas. Grihasta devotees are generally engaged in material activities, and therefore, if they do not take to deity worship, their falling down is positively assured. And this is actually quite common. We see that devotees who don't take seriously to the process of devotional service, especially those who are engaged in worldly activities, which is the case with most grihasta devotees, is they have jobs, they're interacting with non-devotees, and this association, or this interaction with those who are engrossed in the material energy can have powerful detrimental effects. So therefore, we need to have some powerful process to counteract the effect of this type of association. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada here is stressing in this purport that if we don't have that kind of counteracting association, we can become really deeply affected by the association of non-devotees and the material energy and become bewildered. And if we look at, I'm sure many of you here have been devotees for several decades, and you can look back and see how many of those who have come to the practice of bhakti are not here now. How many of those have fallen by the wayside? This is largely due to the association of material nature. They become enamored by the material nature. So we have to become fully absorbed in the process of devotional service. And especially, and Prabhupada's making this point, especially for the household devotees, the process of deity worship is very, very powerful. But we have to keep in mind, and this is one of the main emphasis of my service, it doesn't just mean some formal offering of articles to the deities. It has to be much more than that. This is just the vehicle. We have to develop love. We have to develop this consciousness that He is my Lord, He is my Master. It is my duty to serve Him. Not that we just formally go through some ritual and we're not even watching what we're doing. So often I've seen, because every year we train devotees. I just got back from London, and before that I was in the USA, where I was happy to meet Sadhguru Prabhu in New York. But we did a number of courses in the USA, and we did a course in London. And one of the things commonly you'll see is devotees will be, they're polishing the deity's face, for instance, and they're not even looking, they're looking at something else. They're getting distracted. But the point is, we have God standing right there in front of us. What was that story of Sakshi Gopal? There's a very wonderful verse there where he says, Pratima nahi tumi saksha brajendanandana. My dear Lord, you're not a statue. You're directly the son of Nanda Maharaj Krishna. So this is the consciousness we must develop when we're serving the deity, is that this is not a statue standing in front of me. This is actually Krishna manifest in front of me in this form. So, and Prabhupada, he would often refer to the Archa Vigraha, or the deity, as the Archa Vigraha, and he would interpret that as being the mercy manifestation of Krishna. And how is it mercy? Because we're conditioned living entities, we have a material body. We cannot perceive transcendental nature with this material body, with these material eyes. You cannot see. Atasya Krishna Namadi, Nama Vedgraya Mindiray. You cannot see, with material senses, you cannot see the transcendental nature. And it says, Sevan Mukhihi Hijiva Swayameva. When the senses become transcendentally saturated, and he says, Sevan Mukhi, Jivado, it begins with the tongue. By chanting, by tasting Krishna Prasad. This is the beginning of saturating the senses, but also by engaging in activity. And especially because we are affected by lower modes, especially passion and ignorance, then we tend to be very much absorbed in activity. And because of our nature is like this, therefore deity worship is very important, because it helps us to engage the mind, to engage the body, to engage the senses in serving Krishna. Now, there's a really interesting point in one of the earlier statements that Prabhupada's made here, and he's quoting from, I believe he's quoting from Jiva Goswami. It says here, there's Bhagavati Adha, that one must directly offer everything to Vishnu. And this is sannyas. And we see how in the Gita, Krishna's talking about renunciation, and he's saying that actually Arjuna is a renunciate. Even though he's a grihasta, he's a renunciate. Why? Because he's doing everything for Krishna. So renunciation is not dress. Renunciation is a particular frame of mind, that everything I have, I do for the pleasure of Krishna. This is renunciation. Giving up this whole sense, or this sense of ownership, proprietorship, or the idea that this is mine to enjoy. It's like when we do fire yaga, there's an interesting mantra we offer when we do fire yagas. Idam Krishnaya, idam namama. This is for Krishna, this is not for me. And this needs to be our consciousness. This is the consciousness we need to cultivate in the practice of bhakti, that everything I am doing for the satisfaction of Krishna. And in this way, we can really cultivate this actual idea of renunciation. And then Prabhupada continues, a Tridanda sannyasi carries 3 dandas signifying kaya, mano, vakya, body, mind and words. All these should be offered to Vishnu, and then one can begin devotional service. Fruitive workers first perform some pious activities and then formally or officially offer the results to Vishnu. The real devotee, however, first he offers his surrender to Krishna with his body, mind and words, and then uses his body, mind and words for the service as Krishna desires. So a very important point that Srila Prabhupada is making there, and this is particularly relevant in the process of deity worship. Yes, the rituals are important, they have their purpose, but the real purpose of the ritual is to come to this point of offering body, mind and words to Krishna, of serving the deity fully, with body, mind and words, for the satisfaction of Krishna. Sometimes it's stated that we hear devotees, they say, oh, but if you don't follow the ritual properly, you don't know how to worship the deity. Or if you're not following the ritual properly, this is not real deity worship. Real deity worship means to offer the rituals. Rituals have a purpose, but they're a means, they're not the end. The end is to develop our love for Krishna. The end is to satisfy Krishna. There's a really interesting statement Prabhupada made. He said that if one offers the deity with his heart and soul, everything he offers with heart and soul, he dresses the deity with all his heart, he offers art, he does all these things for the point of pleasing Krishna, then Krishna smiles. And if Krishna smiles at you just once, that's all you need. You just need him to smile at you once. Your life is perfect. You achieved every destination you need in life if Krishna smiles at you. And we see, there's that interesting story of Narad Muni with the Brahma and the cobbler. Where Narad Muni he was on his way to Vaikuntha to meet Lord Vishnu, and he met a Brahmana and a cobbler. And when he met the Brahmana, he saw the Brahmana was very expertly engaged in chanting mantras and doing his pujas and things like that. And then the Brahmana asked him, where are you going? And Narad Muni said, actually, it's interesting you should ask that. I'm going to Vaikuntha to meet with Lord Narayan. And then the Brahmana said, oh, when you meet Narayan, can you ask him when I'm going back to Godhead? And Narad said, yes, I'll do that. And then so later he goes to meet a cobbler. And when he meets the cobbler's very poor. He doesn't have any facility, he doesn't offer him a seat or anything. He doesn't have anything. And he just offers him sweet words and just welcomes him. And then the cobbler, same thing, asked Narad Muni where he's going, and he says he's going to Vaikuntha. So, and the cobbler asked him, can you ask Lord Narayan when I'm going back home to Godhead? And so he goes to Vaikuntha, and he meets with Lord Narayan, and different conversations going on there. But then at one point, Narad asks Lord Narayan about the liberation of the cobbler and the Brahmana, and so when he tells me about the Brahmana, he said, the Brahmana, he's not going to go back to Godhead for many, many lives. But the cobbler, he's going back to Godhead at the end of this life. And Narad Muni's a little bit bewildered by that. And he says, but the Brahmana, he's engaged in his religious functions, he's doing so many activities for your pleasure. It seems to me like, and the cobbler, he's just engaged in dirty activities, making shoes and things like that. Prabhupada mentions how a cobbler is sometimes called muchi, because he's touching leather and things like that and touching people's feet. And so Lord Narayan, he said to Narad Muni, he says, they'll ask you what I was doing, and you tell them I was threading an elephant through the eye of the needle backwards and forwards. And Narad Muni he's a bit bewildered by this. He says, okay, because the Lord's told him, he agrees. So then he goes back and he meets the cobbler. Sorry, the Brahmana. He met the Brahmana first. And so the Brahmana eventually asked him about Lord Narayan and what he said about his liberation. And he said, oh, Lord Narayan, he said that you won't achieve liberation for many, many births. And he says, what? What's the meaning of all my sacrifice, all my puja, all my yajna? What's the meaning of all of this? You know, I've been doing this for years and years and years, and it's not even going to give me liberation. What's the use? He said, anyway, I don't believe you. He said, what was he doing? He said, actually, funny you should ask that. He was threading an elephant through the eye of the needle. Oh, that's impossible. Nobody can do that. Huh? And so he went to the cobbler, and he had a very different experience. You know, the cobbler asked him, you know, what was Narayan doing? And he said, oh, the Lord was threading an elephant backwards and forwards through the eye of the needle. And then the cobbler said, oh, that's so amazing. Lord Narayan, he can do anything. And Narad Muni said, you believe he was putting an elephant through the eye of the needle? And the cobbler said, look, I'm sitting under this banyan tree. Banyan trees, you know, very, very, as you know, we don't have banyan trees in Australia, but here you can see they're very, very vast trees. And they have fruits growing on them. In the fruits there's tiny little seeds. And the cobbler said, in each one of those seeds, Lord Narayan has put a banyan tree. And if he can put a banyan tree into one of those seeds, to thread an elephant through the eye of the needle is nothing. Yeah. And this is the understanding, is we have to have faith that, yes, Krishna can appear before us in the deity. He does appear before us in the deity. And if we worship the deity, as we see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also Rupa Goswami, when he's in the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion, where he's describing the 64 items of deity worship, he concludes that of all of these 64 items, 5 are most potent, powerful, and actually the power of these 5 principles, very difficult to reconcile. And one of these, it says, Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan Mathura Vasa Sri Mathura Shreya Sevan. To worship the deity with faith and veneration. What does that faith mean? It means that I accept that the deity is directly Krishna, and that by serving him, that I can actually come to this point of understanding Krishna and ultimately going back home to Godhead. And veneration means I am his servant, he is my master. Sometimes we see that devotees get the relationship confused. They think the idea, you know, like in deity worship, that they should be, you know, serving the deity as my friend or as my brother or as my son. These relationships are incompatible. You know, because we have to understand where we are in devotional service. We are practicing what is called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. What does Vaidhi mean? Vaidhi means rules. So we follow the rules of devotional service. We follow the rules of deity worship. And this is the point that Prabhupada makes here next in this purport. Where is it? Deity worship means following the rules and regulations precisely. Now, you know, for those of you who are familiar with different scriptures in relation to deity worship, for instance, is the Hari Bhakti Vilas. And the Hari Bhakti Vilas has so many rules. And actually one time, Srila Prabhupada was discussing with his disciples about deity worship, and he was telling them about the different rules. And they said, Swamiji, so many rules. And Srila Prabhupada said, if I told you all the rules, you would faint. And it's like that. There's so many rules, but we have to understand the rules through our founder Acharya. He gave us what was essential for deity worship. He gave us the essential rules. And you'll see, there's 3 places predominantly that Prabhupada talks about deity worship. There's this purport here. There is the Madhya Lila, chapter 24, text 330 through to about 336. He gives a lot of instruction in deity worship. And also we see in the first 19 chapters of the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada covers a lot of information about deity worship. And so he's giving us the parameters on how we should serve the deity. And also you'll see in this purport, he lists the different offenses. But again, as I mentioned before, this is coming from Jiva Goswami. If you look at this section, this purport here, you'll see it almost exactly mirrors what Jiva Goswami says. You know, these points on archana is exactly what Jiva Goswami says. Jiva Goswami gives a little more detail, but not much. So the point is if we follow Prabhupada, we have to understand we're coming in the line of the Acharyas. It's not Prabhupada made it up just to try and keep us engaged or something. It's not like he speculated. No, this is coming from our previous acharyas. And therefore we know that ultimately it's connected directly to Krishna. Because what does Krishna say? Evam parampara praptam imam rajasya. That I established this parampara is coming from Krishna. And also we know the process of deity worship is coming from Krishna. There's a very nice chapter in the 11th canto, chapter 27. It's called Lord Krishna's Instructions on Deity Worship to Uddhava. So we can see that this is a bona fide process. It's an authorized process. It's coming directly from Krishna himself through the Guru Parampara to Srila Prabhupada and ultimately to all of us. So by engaging in this process of deity worship, one will be able to achieve success. Then Prabhupada continues, that will keep one steady in devotional service. Generally, householders have children, and then the wives of the householders should be engaged in caring for the children, just as women, acting as teachers, care for the children in the nursery school. So we see Prabhupada again, he's defining what is our role, is that generally the ladies engage in children, but also he's making a point here that when women are engaged in caring for children, especially small children, because the nature of children, they're sticking everything into their mouth, they're passing urine, stool, stuff like that, then it's very difficult to be clean. It's not possible to be clean in this environment. So there are different times where he would instruct his female disciples. He says, no, your child is your deity. Take care of the deity. Take care of your child. And one time there was one of his Vaishnavi disciples who just was so attached to doing deity worship that she didn't want to take care of the child. So then Prabhupada says, then give him to me and I'll take care of him. So again, emphasizing the importance of caring for children. Because if we care for the children properly, they'll become nice Vaishnavas. Just like we see with Srila Prabhupada. His parents cared for him very wonderfully, and he became the most wonderful Vaishnava. Already he was a wonderful Vaishnava, but also the pastime is there of how the parents would care for the children properly. And so this is very important. Grihastha devotees must adopt archana vidhi, or deity worship, according to the suitable arrangements and directions given by the spiritual master. And these are all given to us by Srila Prabhupada. Regarding those unable to take the deity worship in the temple, there is the following statement in the Agni Purana. Because circumstantially some people cannot do deity worship for whatever reason. Sometimes they might have some kind of disability. Sometimes it may be very difficult, as I was mentioning, to be clean. So there are, the scriptures are not impractical. The scriptures are very, very practical, and they tend to give instruction for any circumstance or any Vaishnava, because the main point here, and you'll see the main point given by the scriptures, is to rekindle this lost relationship, this loving relationship as it's described. This loving relationship is there in the heart. It's already there. It's just karanayudaya. It just requires to be awoken through the process of bhakti. And the process of deity worship is a very, very powerful way of reawakening that relationship, because when you're doing deity worship, you get to interact with Krishna directly. It's not abstract, it's not removed. He's directly there, and you can directly interact with him by serving him, by offering him bhoga, you can feed him. You can actually feed the deity. Where we train devotees to, when they're putting the deity to bed at night, for instance, is to take the condensed milk and the ganadukta, and with a spoon you hold the bowl in front of him and you feed him. You offer the spoon to his mouth so he can take it. And the same when we offer padya, argya, we offer the padya to the lotus feet. We offer the argya over his head. We offer the archman to his mouth. We offer the madhupak to his mouth. So personal interaction. And this is one of the wonderful elements of deity worship. It gives us, who are conditioned in these horrible bodies, it gives us the opportunity to directly engage in a direct reciprocal relationship with Krishna. And I do say reciprocal because you will find that as you surrender more and more to Krishna, Prabhupada's father would often say to Prabhupada that for every step you take toward Krishna, he will take 10 steps towards you. So if you run towards Krishna, what's he going to do? So the idea is to really try to cultivate this personal relationship, but not a relationship that's not founded in the teachings of our acharyas. Don't concoct. Don't come up with your own method of deity worship, because that will lead to sahajism. And Prabhupada talks about this very strongly in different places. If we do not follow the guidance that's given by our acharyas, then this will lead to sahajism. Do not make up your own process of deity worship. If you haven't seen it coming from a reputable source, then you have to question. So I mean, it's incredible the amount of questions we get about deity worship, and someone will say, "Oh, so and so said this, this, and this," and usually my first response is, "What is their praman?" Everything has to be based on praman, and we see in the beginning of the sandarbhas, the first sandarbha is called Tattva Sandarbha, and what is Jiva Goswami's first point? What is he establishing first off? He establishes our praman, and what's our praman? Srimad Bhagavatam. That's our praman. So if some practice doesn't have a praman, we need to question what is the validity of this practice. And so the Prabhupada is very strong on this point, and as our predecessor acharyas. So any householder devotee, circumstantially unable to worship the deity, must at least see the deity worship, and in this way he may achieve success also. So, just if you go into the temple, for instance, right, and you watch the pujari offering arti, he's getting benefit from offering that arti. But by you observing it, you also get the same benefit. Exactly the same. This is the nature of the transcendental process. Srila Prabhupada told the devotees in New Mayapur, France, that if you, for some reason you're doing service, you might be cooking in the kitchen, whatever, and you can't be in the temple room to see the deity offering arti, you hear the conch blowing, you offer your obeisances when the conch is blowing, you get the same benefit as you would for offering the arti. That is the nature of the process of deity worship. It's absolute. It's transcendental, it's absolute. You get the same benefit. It's just like if you have a wire, that's got, I think you have 220 volts here in India, or 240 volts. Doesn't matter where you touch that wire. You can touch at the start, you can touch the middle, you can touch the end. You will get the same effect. You'll get electrocuted. So it's the same with the process of devotional service. No matter how you engage with the process of devotional service, if you engage sincerely in the practice, as Krishna says, Ye yata mam prapadyante tang satai vijamyaham. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So the point is about surrender. It's not necessarily about the activity so much. The activity is there to help us to surrender, but the activities are largely external. It really gets down to the heart. I was in Vrindavan recently for the 50th anniversary. Quite a wonderful experience, actually. And in the morning there was activities focused around the deities. There's Pushpa Abhishek, Abhishek, boat festival, different things like swing festival, all these different things, really, really beautiful. And in the afternoon, it was focusing on remembrances of Prabhupada. So all Prabhupada's disciples were giving there was many, many Prabhupada disciples there. I can't remember, 50 or more disciples there. It was wonderful. It was the largest gathering I've ever witnessed of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. And they were all giving their remembrances of Prabhupada. Most of them were in person, but some of them were video recordings. But there was one devotee, I can't remember his name unfortunately, but he was a member of Hamsaduda's bus party here in India. And he was an engineer, but so he wound up being the bus party's mechanic. So whenever a bus broke down, he had to fix it. Which I've done that kind of work, and it's really gross, dirty work. You wind up with grease all over you. Anyhow, so Prabhupada was giving Diksha in Vrindavan, and he tried to get there, but the bus party was traveling and they couldn't get there in time. And so he missed that. And then later on, they were going to Mayapur. Prabhupada was in Mayapur again. Prabhupada was giving initiation. So he's really keen. He wanted to get initiated, And so they're on the way there. And some distance from Mayapur, one of the buses broke down. So he had to fix the bus. And finally, he fixed the bus, and he didn't speak a word of Bengali, but they managed to get to Mayapur somehow. They didn't know the direction, but somehow or other they found Mayapur. And he arrived there, and just as he was entering the temple, the devotees were leaving the temple after the initiation, and he was feeling quite deflated. And then Hamsadutta Maharaj, he said to him, he said, what's wrong with you? You don't want to get initiated? And he said, Maharaj, and he explained the whole situation, And then so sometime later, they were back in Vrindavan. Then Hamsadutta Maharaj, he went to this devotee. He said, Prabhupada wants to see you. And then so he was so excited. He walked into Prabhupada's room and offered his obeisance, and he stood up and Prabhupada said, your name is? And he gave him his name. And then this devotee was just like dumbstruck. He didn't know how to respond to that. And he said, is that it? And then Srila Prabhupada said, you want something more? And then he said, well, a yajna and the whole thing, And he said, Prabhupada said to him, you have to understand it's a thing of the heart. And this is the process of devotional service. It's not about external formalities. These are helpful to regulate the mind, to regulate the senses, but it's about connecting with the heart. It's about giving oneself fully to the service of Krishna and reawakening this relationship that is already existing there in the heart. And this is the point that Krishna's Kaviraj makes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhu Kavarai, Shravanada Sutta Chitra Karaodai. That this Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, this eternal perfection of love of Godhead, is there in the heart. It's not in the head, it's in the heart. It's not in your hands or your body, it's in your heart. And it just requires to be awoken. And it's awoken through the process of Krishna consciousness. And it says, Karai Dai. This Udai means to rise up, just like Udila Aruna, the sun, it rises on the western horizon. So it just requires for this process to rise from the sleeping heart. And the process of devotional service helps us to awaken that bhakti that's there in the heart. And deity worship is very, very effective for that, because we're actually directly interacting with Krishna, as I was saying before. We get to touch him. And just like if you touch electricity, you become energized. So by touching Krishna, you become spiritualized. And so this is why deity worship is so, so powerful. And everyone should engage in it. Or at least, if you don't have the possibility to engage in deity worship, at least every day, come and see the deity. But when you come to see Krishna, don't come empty-handed. Bring something for him. Bring a flower, bring a fruit, bring something for him. An offering of love. Just like I was in Goloka Dham in Germany for the Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja. Really, really wonderful event. Actually, Janmashtami is wonderful wherever you go. I hear it was quite wonderful here also. Sadhu was telling me about it. How you had 500,000 people, or 5 lakh. That's phenomenal. I mean, all glories to the management here for the managing that many people. And actually, I was also in London, in Soho Street, and I'm not sure, I don't think they counted there, but their temple room is about the size of this stage, not quite as wide and not quite as long, but it's quite small. And they had tens of thousands of people. Somehow or other they managed all those people in that tiny little space. At least here you have a bit more space, but probably still too small for that kind of space. But anyhow, so I was in Abenteuer for Goloka Dham for Janmashtami and then Vyasa Puja. And then Vyasa Puja Day, as we know, we do Pushpanjali for Srila Prabhupada. And so Satchidananda Swami, who was there, he said, please explain to the devotees what Pushpanjali is about. So, I mean, Pushpanjali has its formality in deity worship, and especially you'll see in Vrindavan when they offer arati, they offer Pushpanjali to deity. So the formal idea of Pushpanjali is to attract the attention of the deity, to indicate that now I'm about to do some worship. So Krishna knows that you're going to do something. But also there's the other side of it, whereas Pushpanjali is because Pushpa, you have flowers between Anjali, folded hands, so you're offering yourself to Krishna. You're formally offering yourself, not formally, but you're actually offering yourself to the lotus feet of Krishna. Just like there's some prayers from one of the Vedas called Mantra Pushpam. Ayatanam Veda Yopam Ayatanam Veda Ayatanam Bhavati. So we're offering mantra as flowers. And the idea is this is an offering of love to the lotus feet of Krishna. And this is what our devotional service needs to become, because bhakti means love. Yeah? And even for those of us who are following Vidhi, who are following rules, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, our love comes through following the rules. Because this is the acharyas, they give us this system. You follow this rule, this rule, this rule, and this is your offering to Krishna. This is the love, but it has to come from the heart. Ultimately, it has to come from the heart. And Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, it purifies the heart. It cleanses the dust, as we see this Cheto Dapana Majnam, Bhavanaha Devagni Devapanam. It cleanses the heart from the dust which is accumulated for many, many millions of births. And you can imagine, especially for those of you who clean their houses, if you don't clean the house for 1 week, especially in a place like Delhi, how much dust is there? It's incredible how much dust there is. If you don't clean your house for 1 year, how much dust is there? But imagine you didn't clean your house for millions of births, how much dust there would be. And this is our heart. We have not been cleansing the heart. What we've been doing is we've been heaping more and more dirt on. This material contamination, identification with the body, the whole process of trying to enjoy the senses, of trying to be the controller and the enjoyer, is just covering our heart with more and more dust, more and more misidentification. And this is the position of the living entity. We're so enwrapped in this concept of I am the body, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, that it's going to take us some time to overcome that. But the process of bhakti is the most effective means. And it very rapidly cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated from countless millions and millions of births. But it has to be done with sincerity. It has to be done according to the instructions of Guru, Sada, and Shastra. The special purpose of deity worship is to keep oneself always pure and clean. Grihastha devotees should be actual examples of cleanliness. And you see, when you do deity worship, you offer something to deity, you purify your hand. You offer something to deity, you purify your hand. You should bathe. Brahmanas generally, it's understood they should bathe 3 times a day. Generally before Gayatri. At least twice a day you should bathe. This is cleanliness. And Srila Prabhupada would talk at great length about cleanliness. Actually, for anyone who wants to learn how to be clean, and there's a very important purport in the 13th chapter of those verses that start Anam Amanitvam Adam Vitvam. I'm sure many of the brahmacharis are familiar with these verses. Prabhupada talks about Sorcham, because one of the items that Krishna mentions is Sorcham. And he makes a very, very powerful statement. He says, without cleanliness, it is not possible to make spiritual advancement. Simple. If you're not clean, you will not make spiritual advancement. If you want to understand what it means to be clean, go to our YouTube channel, ISKCON Deity Worship Ministry, look under the playlists, and we have a playlist there, Cleanliness. And there's Jamuna, Mataji's describing cleanliness, but also Hari Suri. Hari Suri served with Prabhupada for about 18 months, 16 months I think. And so he got a very vivid understanding of what Prabhupada meant by cleanliness. So if you want to get an understanding of what it means to be clean, then I encourage you to listen to these videos. Because if you're not clean, Prabhupada says very clearly, you will not make spiritual advancement. So who wants to make spiritual advancement here? Everyone? Yeah, I thought so, yeah. So you have to learn how to be clean. And I'll tell you one short story about cleanliness, just so you get the idea of Prabhupada's idea of cleanliness. One of the first times that Prabhupada went back to Vrindavan after going to the West, I think probably the first time, he was staying in his rooms at Radha Damodar. And Jamuna was cleaning the rooms. And Jamuna, very particular person, very, very particular. And she was so devoted to Srila Prabhupada. Anything Prabhupada wanted, it was that just became her life's mission. And so she was cleaning Prabhupada's rooms, and she would do everything very carefully, and she would put everything back where it was, because Prabhupada didn't like his desk to be stirred, on his desk. She put everything back the way it was. She understood that it was Prabhupada's mood and put everything back. And she wiped the pens down, put them back where they went, wiped the desk down, everything like that. And then Prabhupada came back, he sat down behind his desk, and he was moving some things around and stuff like that. And then he called out, he said, Jamuna, yes, Swamiji, when will you ever learn? I don't know what you mean, Swamiji. When will you ever learn? What do you mean, Swamiji? When will you ever learn to clean? And she's completely bewildered because she thought she'd done everything so nicely. Prabhupada picked the stapler up off the desk. He opened the stapler, he wiped his finger inside, said, see, dust. So everything needs to be spotlessly clean, both inside and outside you see, inside no one looks. When I do temple, because I regularly go, every temple I visit, I go, I have a look through the deity department, I look through the kitchen, because the kitchen is Radharani's domain. Yeah? Actually, in Goloka Dham, they have on the wall, it's in German, it says Radharani's Reich. Yeah, so the Reich means like the abode or the kingdom. Yeah, so the kitchen is Radharani's kingdom. And it needs to be spotlessly clean. Srila Prabhupada mentioned in a letter that the deity kitchen is as good as the deity room. So whatever conduct is expected in the deity room, whatever standards are expected in the deity room, should be the same in the kitchen. Same Vaishnava attire, same standards of cleanliness, same standards of conduct. Means you don't talk in the kitchen. Oftentimes kitchens are places where there's just so much prajalpa going on. Someone will stand around while someone's cooking. No, it's the same as the altar. Why? Because your meditation, your consciousness is going into this food. This food is being offered to Krishna. So whatever consciousness you want to offer to Krishna, you have that when you're cooking. And actually in any service related to the deity, it should be that our consciousness, we focus our consciousness so we understand this is being offered for Krishna's pleasure. So deity worship is not some kind of random thing, or we can just do casually. We really need to be very, very focused. And Prabhupada continues, deity worship should be continued along with hearing and chanting. Therefore, every mantra is preceded by the word Namah. There's so many mantras in deity worship, but there's one mantra which is very, very important in deity worship. What's that? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. The whole point of deity worship is to bring us to the point of chanting Hare Krishna purely. That's what it's about. Deity worship is not the process for the age. Nam Sankirtan is the process for the age. But deity worship purifies our heart so we can chant purely. In all the mantras, there are specific potencies of which the Grihastha devotee must take advantage. There are many mantras preceded by the word Namah, but if one chants the holy name of the Lord, he receives the result of chanting Namah many times. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can reach the platform of love of Godhead. One might ask, then, what is the necessity of being initiated? The answer is, and this is the point that Jiva Goswami raises, the answer is that even though the chanting of the holy name is sufficient to enable one to progress in spiritual life to the standard of love of Godhead, one is nonetheless susceptible to contamination because of possessing a material body. Consequently, special stress is given to the archana vidhi. One should therefore regularly take advantage of both the Bhagavat process and the Pancharatric process. And one of the points I often raise in relation to this, how Jiva Goswami is saying that those who approach him, their hearts and minds are contaminated. When did Jiva Goswami say this? 500 years ago. How different is it now? How much more contaminated are the people in this age? Most people in this age don't even know who Krishna is, don't even know they're not this body. At least 500 years ago there was some understanding of that, but now it's just completely absent. So it's even more important now because of the depth of contamination. Deity worship has two divisions, namely pure and mixed with fruitive activities. For one who is steady, deity worship is compulsory. Notice that? Deity worship is compulsory. Observing the various types of festivals such as Sri Janmastami, Ram Navami, and Nrsimha Chaturdasi is also included in the process of deity worship. And my observation has been you observe those festivals very wonderfully here. In other words, it is compulsory for the householder devotees to observe these festivals. Okay, so dear householders, compulsory, don't ignore it. Now let us discuss the offenses in deity worship. How are we going time-wise? Anyhow, there's quite a long list of offences here, which I could say a lot about, but I encourage you to read them. Prabhupada also gives a list of offences in the Nectar of Devotion. Actually, the first list here comes from the Nectar of Devotion, and he also gives a list in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. One should be aware of the offences, that's for sure, but I would encourage devotees not to dwell on the offences. Try to be more proactive than reactive in your service of Krishna. Be aware of what's offensive and avoid doing that. And if one commits an offense, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that one should make the resolve not to do that again. But sometimes you'll see in deity worship that devotees might say, "Oh, Prabhu, that's so offensive, the way you're doing this." And sometimes, I'm not saying always, but sometimes it seems like it's a way of manipulating people by using this, the concept of offense to try to get them to act in a particular way. It's important to understand the offenses, that's for sure. And so we can avoid offering offensive worship. But don't be so consumed with the offenses. Be more proactive in the worship. Okay. I'll leave some time for questions. Any questions at all on that? The man with the microphone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Prabhuji, I think right came verse to the right speaker. Since you are talking about archana and you are a deity minister in ISKCON, so we have been fortunate to hear from you. And I was thinking on one question, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in some temple, we have seen, like, especially at night, when temple is closed, they put Srila Prabhupada deity to rest. And in some temple, they don't.
Yeah.
So, are there any specific standards for Srila Prabhupada deity to put him to rest at night and woken up in the morning?
No specific requirements. Usually you'll find it's more common when they have a deity of Prabhupada, or even a picture on the altar. You touch their lotus feet and you ask them to sleep and ask them to wake up. I mean, I think it's a good thing to do. It's not compulsory, especially when you're training younger devotees, newer devotees to take up the practices of Krishna consciousness. I remember as a bhakta that I would dress Prabhupada every day. I did that for quite some time. And this helps us in regulation, it helps us in cleanliness, and also it's a good way to receive the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, because we're doing direct service for Srila Prabhupada. So while it's not required, especially the deity in the temple room, it's a nice practice. Yeah, again, not 100% essential. Like, for instance, in London, they dress Srila Prabhupada before Mangalarti, because then they don't have to put up the screen, but other temples have put up a screen. Prabhupada should be dressed privately, for sure. We should be seeing that Srila Prabhupada is directly present in his deity. I mean, sometimes devotees will say, "Oh, but that's a murti. A murti is not murti means deity. It's the same. It means form. Archa means, or vigraha means form. It's the same thing. It's just a different word, means the same thing. So whether you call it a deity, whether you call it a vigraha, you call it a murti, same thing. Prabhupada is directly present there. And even there's a letter where Srila Prabhupada mentions that you shouldn't throw my picture this way and that because I'm non-different from my picture. It's kind of interesting because he's revealing his transcendental nature. But he's saying that the transcendental personality is non-different from their picture, from their deity or the murti, whatever you call it. So we should respect that form. But one of the advantages of the deity of Prabhupada, and I'm not necessarily advocating that here in Delhi you would want to do the same thing, because obviously there's certain cultural norms that need to be followed. But at least in Western countries, whether it's a man or woman dressing, it doesn't matter, because he's Nitya Leela. It's the same as with the deities, whether it's a man or woman dressing, it doesn't really matter. And Prabhupada makes that point here about how the process of bhakti is open to all people. It doesn't matter whether you're a brahmana or not, the process of devotional service. And Krishna makes this Striya Vaishnava does, he makes the same point, that bhakti is open for all. But obviously, and this is a point that we emphasize in the ministry, is we have to be sensitive to cultural norms. What may create disturbance in some places is quite okay in other places. So you have to be quite aware of it. But then sometimes Prabhupada would say, just in Vrindavan one time, observing eclipses, he told devotees that the deity worship should not be disturbed, shouldn't be interrupted. It should go on, regardless of eclipse. And so he told them in Vrindavan to just close the temple to the outsiders, but continue the worship behind closed doors. So things like that should never stop. Maybe we should see if anyone else has a question.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful class. It's always very good to hear from you, and it increases our faith towards Deity. Prabhuji, my question is that nowadays the yajna which we perform, it is like quite very elaborate. If you see in Prabhupada's time, it was not much emphasized. Prabhupada was also emphasizing on the Nam Sankirtan. So now we have courses and all these things nowadays. When you want to take up and sometimes the more emphasis is on yajna is there than the Harinam Sankirtan.
Yeah.
So what is your...
Yeah, some people, I mean, it's more common here than in India than in other places. And I think this is largely coming from misunderstanding. Because you'll see, like you know, I mean, I've been to so many functions here in India, probably not as many as many of you, but you'll see with a lot of these functions, it's very external. And they're doing the whole procedure so wonderfully, but for them the deity is just an object. It's not a person. And you see the way they interact, you know, like I've seen some people, they'll kind of do their worship, you know, they invite the personality to come in the form, they'll do their worship, they'll do visarja, and then they'll throw the deity in a box. And literally throw him in a box. You know? It's an object. He's not an object, he's not a statue, he's directly Krishna. That's what we have to, we really have to imbibe that deeply in our hearts, that this is not an object. This is directly Krishna. You know, so we have to really look at that when we're doing the seva and interact with him and offer things to him in a way that is demonstrating our understanding of him being directly present. And if we get overly caught up in the ritual, we tend to lose our way. We tend to get lost in the ritual. And this is what's happened. And so, and the point you raised is a concern that I have. So this year at the GBC meetings, I put a proposal forward, and this is very much in line with the mandate that the GBC has given to ministers. Is one of the there's 12 points they give, and one of the points is that the minister must develop the curriculum of his discipline and disseminate the curriculum. Right, so it's the responsibility, like cow protection, it's the responsibility of the cow protection ministry to disseminate any teaching on cow protection. And as such, it is the responsibility of ISKCON deity worship ministry to disseminate the teachings on deity worship. So now, in ISKCON, if you want to do a course, you can't do a course on deity worship unless it's approved by ISKCON deity worship ministry. You can't teach it unless you're approved to teach deity worship. And that means all elements of deity worship, including yajnas. Because I've seen there's an overemphasis on yajna. Way too much emphasis on yajna. Prabhupada, when he installed deities, would do the simplest installations. Now the installations have become so complex. You know, and we're introducing a lot of ritual from different sampradayas. Yet Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he instructed his disciples to research the yajna, the installation, and how to do it. And that's, you know, when we see this is the system they follow in Mayapur, is that padati on how to install deities. That's what they're doing. And there's two devotees that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur instructed to do that. And so there's small variations between the two, but they're quite similar. Yeah? And so, you know, following the example and the teachings of our founder Acharya, we should try to really understand what he wanted in ISKCON. Because this is the path to success. You know, Mahajana Yerigata Sapanta. You know, by following the Mahajan, by following our founder Acharya, you know, and it's what does Vishnu Trapari Thakur says? It's Yasha Prasada, Bhaga Prasada, Yasha Aprasada Nagati Kotopi. If you please the Guru, then your destination is assured. But if you don't please the Guru, Nagati Kotopi, you're not going to achieve the supreme destination. So I think we need to be really careful about what degree of ritual. Of course, you know, some devotees, it's in their nature to want to do ritual. That's fine. When they're doing their own worship, they can do that. But not that it should become overly complex. Prabhupada didn't want the deity worship to be complex because he wanted everyone to do the deity worship. Yeah? So we have to be mindful of that, is to try to keep the deity worship at a level where it's available for all devotees. Because Prabhupada's saying here that Grihasta devotees should be doing deity worship. But then, most Grihastas, they're working, they've got children, they've got this, they've got that. So if the deity worship is really complex, when are they going to learn how to do complex ritual? So we have to keep it suitable for devotees to do. Not make it the domain of some very, very few brahmanas who know all these really, really complicated rituals. That wasn't Prabhupada's intention with deity worship. He wanted everyone to do deity worship, so we need to keep it simple. Okay, I'll finish there because I can see devotees are starting to get hungry. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. So my humble request, we thank Prabhuji by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And we humbly request Prabhuji, whenever you come to India, please do visit Delhi and give your divine association. Hare Krishna. Narasimha Kavach Prabhuji ki jai.